Hi there. Um, Welcome to my little corner of BGSU. You are here in Jeff's studio. Being Jeff's studio, that would make me Jeff. I'm a second year MFA candidate, and I'm here for two-dimensional design. And what I'd like to talk to you about today is the work that I've done previously and where it's going at this point. So over here is my present body of work. I began this back in January, and I intend for all of this to be seen as more or less modular, hence why they're all together and why I'm not just singling out any one, although I will single out a couple of these for you for closer examination. Anyway, focus of my work, if you can't tell, is landscape. I'm very much an outdoorsman. I'm very much in love and infatuated with nature and natural form. Okay, so why nature? That's a question that was asked of me by my studio mate just the other day. In short, I love nature. I think everyone should, given that we are all on this planet, and it's that thing that unifies pretty much every single living creature on Earth. But also, I am in love with nature because of its healing aspects. I know that sounds kind of like a cliched sentiment. You hear all about the modern apothecaries and new age kind of healers and stuff touting natural remedies and this, that, and the other. That's not what this is about. No, but what this is about is, and you can't really tell from looking at the images themselves, but the way I approach landscape is from a very mental health and well-being perspective. I know the ability of being out in nature to be able to heal a troubled mind, mental chatter, quiet the soul a little bit. And also I have a mind for ecology and conservation. The idea of preservation of natural wild spaces is of utmost importance to me, really. But I don't want to approach these from a political perspective. I've done political art before. It's fine. In my experience anyway, when you do something that's overtly politicized, viewers tend to gravitate more towards the message and the politics instead of the imagery. I know that's kind of a blanket statement, and that's certainly not true for anyone working with issues of politically motivated art. In my experience personally, that's been the case, and I kind of want to divorce myself from that. For me, as painting instructor here, Dennis called to mind, and what he noticed about my work is that they're all little moments for meditation. Each individual piece here is a place that I've either visited, or that I lived near, or that is of some personal importance to me. And so what I do is I try to look for those moments that are oft overlooked. I think there's beauty that can be found pretty much anywhere. You just have to look for it. And at this point, I'm going to zoom in on a couple of pieces just so that I can give you an idea of what I'm talking about. If you take a look at these two here side by side, I call them, it's a very creative title, Bush and Bush 2. I know it's a lame title, it's what I got. So yeah, Bush 2. These are kind of an extension of all of this. I'm going to these ones at first because I think these are kind of the best representation of what I'm hoping to achieve with my approach to landscape. And also they're an extension of the method in which I started working when I began this series. Little background on that. Back in January, I was traveling a bit. I didn't have the means of bringing all my paints and stuff that I normally work with. And so I kind of adopted a work with what you got mentality. What I happened to have was ink, brush, and a whole bunch of old sketchbooks laying around. And that kind of took on a life of its own. My MFA review was pretty positive towards those kind of works. I guess I should elaborate a little more. Sumi-e works, Japanese-inspired ink wash drawings. And these two here kind of bridge that gap between the kind of painting that I was doing beforehand and then the drawings that I began doing, well, and am still doing, as you can see in this wall of work. This one here, I wanted to take on a more expressive stroke. This one here, I wanted to quiet myself down a little bit, focus on some of the finer details, bring a more delicate touch to it, and really push myself to consider my color choices. Instead of being so all over the place with them, I wanted a nice controlled palette. I wanted to make sure that everything kind of flowed nicely, kind of paying attention to compositional balance. But the reason I bring these two up as a means of talking about those moments often overlooked and those moments of beauty that can be seen pretty much anywhere. These are two bushes that are outside of my parents' house. They're at the end of the driveway. They've been there since as far back as I can remember. And they're the ugliest things I've ever seen. They've been out at the end of the driveway for years and years, and in the summertime, the heat kind of radiates off the asphalt, and at this point has just like cooked most of them away, so they're all gnarled and burnt and kind of gross looking. But if you look closely at them, as I did here when I was out walking my dog when I was back home, I got to seeing all these little intricacies that just spoke to me, like all these little twigs and the way the branches would flow. There was a certain beauty about it, even though it was a decayed, burnt out mess. And I think those are some of the best examples I have anyway of like looking at notions of what is landscape in general, what constitutes a landscape, what of the landscape is of importance. And again, trying to find the beauty anywhere. I'm trying to think of another piece here that I can kind of direct your attention to. Really, this whole section, the two bushes included, these are some of the more recent works from when the lockdown happened. We were all in quarantine. These are the pieces that I came up with, trying to push myself away from just working with ink, bring some subtle color into it, and really push myself to start thinking about those things of what kind of colors should I use? Do I need them at all? Do they need to be more subdued, like in this piece here? And what else can I say about this series that would be of any interest to you? Oh, going back to what I was saying with regards to mental health and well-being, I point to these two. I'm very curious to see how my mood and my mental state kind of affects my mark making. That's something that's always been of interest to me, whether I'm doing a drawing or a painting, or, well, I guess it still counts as paint if you get angry and just throw stuff at a canvas and see what sticks. But this here was moments of complete mental chatter, complete unquiet of the mind, and just recording those feelings, those thoughts, translating them from what's in here to bring it out over here. Moving it down this way, I can kind of show you where my work is headed. And if we can zoom in, is that in frame? Cool. I have a background in figurative drawing. I did that a lot in undergrad, and it's something that I've been wanting to get back into. Specifically, I wanted to challenge myself to bring figurative work into a landscape. And I think in this case, what I'm trying to communicate is the idea of forging that human connection to the environment. That's my approach anyway to the end of conservation and ecology that's of importance to me. Those things are only possible if we have that human connection. And so what I want to do with my viewers is force a degree of reverence for nature. I want to force you to be connected to the environment. And so with this here, I wanted to toy with the idea of an implied landscape and create it out of the human figure. The human figure came first, and then more expressive experiments with ink on, this is a silver point drawing, so it's a prepared ground on paper, painstaking hatching with silver, and then seeing how the ink reacts to it. And I was very excited about this one. It's completely different from everything I've done, but to me anyway, it still fits all in there. It still forces you to consider notions of natural form and nature in general. And so now that I'm taking a metals class here, I'm going to be doing in addition to some larger paintings that I have planned, I'm going to be doing a series of these kind of metal point drawings and seeing about tying everything together. So again, challenging the notion of what constitutes a landscape, trying to force those conversations to be had with regards to its preservation, and I guess the thing that we're all trying to do with art making is forging a connection, whether it be with the natural world or with your viewers or just with each other. I'm Jeff. Thanks for coming to my studio talk.